Good day. I'd like to introduce you to Gurzil. Let's talk about it. Good day, and welcome to another episode of Drew's Book Reviews. Today we've got a book review for you. Today's book is by I Anonymous, book called Gurzil. I Anonymous, thank you so much for sending me a copy of your book. I really appreciate it, especially since I really liked this book. But before we get into my thoughts on Gurzil, make sure you hit that like button, comment, and subscribe. And also, you can follow me on bookstagram, Discord, and my Patreon. All will be linked below, so check that out. So let's talk about Gurzil. So Gurzil, as mentioned, was sent to me by I Anonymous for a review, and I have to say I am so happy to have gotten a copy of this book. Gurzil, if you don't know, is a dragon. Not like this dragon here, although this dragon is pretty cool. Gurzil is actually a god, a pagan god set in medieval Europe. Now what's really cool about this book is it is kind of have that medieval European historical setting mixed with myth, legend, and fantasy. I mean, who doesn't love a good fantasy? I certainly love a good fantasy. Sci-fi fantasy, that's what I read. Absolutely love that type of setting and story. And of course, dragons are absolutely awesome as well, especially this little one. But Gurzil, the dragon in this book, is just as awesome, if not even cooler, because Gurzil isn't like this little beardy dragon here. Gurzil is in fact a magical dragon who is a god as well, which is a really cool thing about Gurzil. Gurzil has his own cult that is following him. And of course, like any good pagan cult, sacrifices are needed, and lots of blood gets spilt in the name of worshipping Gurzil and sacrificing to Gurzil. Gurzil loves his gold as well, of course, because what dragon doesn't love their gold, right? But this book isn't just about Gurzil and Gurzil's pagan cult. This book is about the historical setting of medieval Europe mixed with Christianity, the pagan gods, as well as the dying Roman Empire. So in terms of the time setting of this book, it is just after the fall of the Roman Empire, when Europe is still trying to figure itself out, and you've got all these different religious cults and dogmatic viewpoints going on, and the different kings and the kingdoms and the politics, it kind of all plays together. One thing that I really liked about the way this book was written is at the beginning of each chapter, it's got a bit of a historical preface. So has a little bit of a preface at the beginning of each chapter and a quote from historical records. Now, I haven't actually researched this myself to kind of verify the authenticity of these quotes or anything, so I certainly don't mean to say that everything there is verifiable fact. I honestly don't know, but it's a nice little tidbit of information that's kind of presented at the beginning of each chapter to kind of give you an idea of where that chapter is going and what it's about. And I really kind of like that aspect of this book, because mixing the history with the legend and myths of medieval Europe was just a really kind of cool approach to the book as well. And I really like that about it. So we've got references to, Viking legends such as Beowulf and Grendel, as well as Merlin and the Sword and the Stone and King Arthur and Camelot, and all of them mixed in with Christianity and Gurzil, of course, the dragon god. And I love how all that kind of mixes together to play into this story overall in terms of how that plays out within this book. Now, I did find that this book primarily is much more of a narrative-driven story, which is still good because I really liked how the narrative was driven, and it really kept my attention throughout the whole book, which I absolutely loved about that. Now, normally I'm really big into character-focused stories. Character-focused versus narrative-focused. I do find that when a book focuses too much on narrative and not enough on characters, it tends to be like, but I want to know more about the characters. It's not as enjoyable. I found there was a good balance in this book between the characters and the narrative, but it does lean a little bit more into the narrative side of things, which was fine because I still really liked the style in which it was written. It was fast-paced, it was entertaining, it had me hooked from the start, and I really didn't want to put this down. I read this book over 3 days, but I probably could have read it over a period of a day easily had I had the time. But of course, I only have so much time when I'm working to actually get in reading. But still, really fast-paced, good, entertaining read. One of my favorite characters, other than of course Gurzil the dragon himself, was Morgana. She is essentially this witch character with a lot of history. Now, when I say history, I mean bad history. She has not led a good life. A lot of terrible things have happened to her to bring her to be the person she is today. And she's definitely one of the stronger lead characters within this book, and I really liked her story as it was written down in this book. And I love how she where she started from and how she became who she was today. And I'll just kind of leave it at that because I don't want to give any spoilers on. But her life was not that good. She had a terrible upbringing, essentially. A lot of bad stuff had happened. And I did like her character and how that was formulated within the book. Overall, I'd say this was just a fantastic read. It was well-paced, it was entertaining, and probably one of the best self-published books that I personally have ever had the pleasure of reading, and I highly recommend that you check out Gurzil by I, Anonymous. If you haven't already, go check it out. It really is a good read, and I absolutely love this book, and I am anxiously awaiting the second book in this series. I will link below to Amazon where you can buy this book. I highly recommend it. Go check it out. It really is a good read. So those are my thoughts on Gurzil by I, Anonymous. Again, thank you so much, I, Anonymous, for sending me a copy of your book to read. I really appreciate it, and I'm so glad I have the opportunity to read this book. I had heard about it and thought I might get it at one point, but then you offered to send it to me, so thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Great read, and I would highly recommend it, especially if you like that historical fantasy mixed with legend and myth. So there you have it. There are my thoughts on Gurzil. Thank you so much for watching. Like, comment, let me know what you thought. Have you read Gurzil? Do you want to read Gurzil? What did you think of Gurzil? I know I certainly enjoyed it. And as always, until next time, keep on reading. Bye.